शुभं करोति कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदा शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योति नमोस्तुते.
Before we begin with our session, a brief about CRDE. Center of Resource Development for Educators is the initiative of educators Dr. Suresh Nair and Mrs. Deepa Desai. Dr. Suresh Nair, President of CRDE, a state teacher awardee, joined Vivek Vidyalaya and Junior College in the year 2006 after serving for KC College for about 18 years as a professor of physics. His visionary endeavor in the field of education paved the way to fetch him an array of accolades. He is a co-author in physics textbooks for junior colleges and MHT-CET for engineering entrance examinations. Mrs. Deepa Desai is Secretary of CRDE. Mrs. Deepa Desai has been in the field of education for more than 37 years and is a recipient of many awards for her work. Former principal of Arya Vidya Mandir Juhu, an ICSC board, the founder principal of Mahapragya Public School, Kalba Devi, a CBSE school in South Mumbai, and former head of IAS Manik Vidya Mandir, she is a woman of many talents. Her rich experience as an educationist also made her an innovative and knowledgeable trainer for the CBSE and Shri Kevalvani Mandal's group of schools in Sherpur, Dhule. Due to some unavoidable circumstances, she will not be present here today. We miss you, ma'am. The Center of Resource Development for Educators is an initiative of educators. It's a platform where teachers and educators are maneuvered to excel and mentor the student community through local and international mentorship. CRDE offers opportunity to experiment and implement ideas, innovations, and collaboration to achieve performance and continuous professional excellence. CRDE is where confluence of like-minded individuals share and imbibe knowledge, experience through interaction, deliberation, and international exposure. We have an eminent speaker today for whom we have been eagerly waiting for. Let me introduce Dr. Vidya Satish, the speaker for today. Dr. Vidya Satish is the director of SIS Institute of Comprehensive Education, SIAM Mumbai, and Nehru, Navi Mumbai, which is one of the premier institute training teachers in early childhood education, counselors, and special educators. She has been specializing in the field of early childhood education for more than 2 decades. Her teaching career began as a primary teacher at Udyachal Primary School, Vikhroli, Mumbai. It is at SIS Institute of Comprehensive Education that she has trained thousands of students becoming teachers in their own right since the year 2000. Her research study as a part of a master's degree in education was on perceptions of resilience, on academic achievement, and social well-being of college students during the COVID-19 pandemic. She has completed a doctoral thesis in human development at Mumbai University. She's a research guide for the postgraduate diploma in early childhood education. She conducts teacher empowerment workshops and also workshops for parents. Writing is very dear to Dr. Vikas. She has authored different chapters in different books. To name a few chapters, The Hidden Power, Early Years to Higher Education, Qualitative Career Assessment Using a Genogram, State Human Rights and Sexual Harassment, State Human Rights Commission and National Human Rights Commission. Her favorite hobby is to write short stories for children. She has contributed various articles for research conferences and is also on the advisory board of the SIES Central Training e-newsletter of SIES Institute of Comprehensive Education. She is a member of the Executive Committee of the Association for Early Childhood Development, both at the National and Mumbai chapter. Today, she will be presenting on the topic Decoding NCF 2022 for the foundational years. Without any further delay, we welcome you, ma'am, for today's evening session. Over to Dr. Vidya Satish.
Thank you, Uma ma'am. Thank you, sir, and respected members of CRDE. It is an honor to talk today. It is an honor to talk about the NEP as well as the NCF 2022. Thank you so much. There's been, I think, 2 postponements of this because of my ill health. I'm extremely sorry. And I just didn't want to miss today because, you know, you so warmly invited, and Shankar sir also was, you know, he kept telling me, and extremely sorry for the delay in conducting this session. I hope I live up to the expectations, and we will discuss about the NEP, we'll decode NEP, NCF, National Curriculum Framework 2022. NEP came at a time when we were all at home in the pandemic, and I think all of us heard a lot, attended a lot of webinars, understood a lot about the national education policy. And actually, I feel that it came at a very momentous time that we all could give some attention to the national education policy. As educators, we know that there are policies which are, you know, designed by the government for the betterment of the educational status in the country. And the NEP 2020 was really a different one, a one which brought a lot of promises. And since we heard, I'm sure all of us have heard a lot of deliberations about the national education policy. One question that actually came up to our mind was, when is this policy going to be implemented? In fact, my students who are here, they attended a session about NEP last week, I think a few days back. And also a lot of questions, whether this will, you know, when will this happen? When will we start adopting the new education policy and all that? So linking up to that, the National Curriculum Framework, which came in 2022. So the first rollout plan itself is coming off the national curriculum. So we no longer have to say that when will this happen? When will we, you know, of course, there are a lot of things where the government has to decide, it has to be passed in the assembly and all that. State governments have to take a lot of work, has to go in. But still, this national curriculum framework, the rolling out of the national curriculum framework itself is one of the first indicators that this policy is in place, and it is, you know, going to take shape. What I'm going to speak today, I have taken from the National Curriculum Framework policy document. So I acknowledge every bit of what I'm going to speak today to the policy document. And I just thought I should ask this question as to what is your expectation? I know my students have had a long day, but nevertheless, what is the expectation from today's session? If anybody can say that or write it in the chat box, so that I can tell I'll be doing this, I'll not be doing this.
Ma'am, actually, I think everybody expects an overview of NEP. But see, NEP, as you have already said, many of the people must have attended many of the sessions.
Yes.
But everyone will be having one doubt in mind, that is how this will be implemented, particularly in the school sections. See, I think in higher education sector, that is in university, it's going to be, and they are well equipped with what they can do or what they have to do. But as far as the schools are concerned, there are many, stumble blocks to implement it. So how this can be implemented, or what are all the things expected from the schools by implementing it or on implementing it? This is what I feel.
Before I begin, I would like to say that, of course, the National Curriculum Framework for the foundational years, which is what I'm going to talk a lot, the National Curriculum Framework for school education also has come in. but I'm not an expert in that. So I will be only dealing with the foundational years, and I can tell you everything that, possibly that we can think about in the till the primary grades, basically. So what is the plan? But if you actually look at the policy, how do you take it ahead? Whether it is the primary classes or whether it is the the middle school level, I don't think there's going to be much of a difference, because they are speaking about experiential learning, project-based approach, involving children, assessments, which are very, interesting, and also kind of very comprehensive is what is being spoken at all levels. And as you said, the higher education institutions like the colleges and the universities, they are already started a lot of the implementation, because in our own college, we have implemented a lot of recommendations by the NEP. But sir, it's not easy at all. It's coming to become very difficult, because it's a bouquet that they are offering. And giving a bouquet to the student is not as easy, because we all need to be equipped with so much. I feel in that context, since we are in the higher education, school education is still better, because you can do a lot of things in the school level. And, the infrastructure is kind of set up. We need to think about activities which we can kind of implement in our school. And, it's not that many things, especially in urban setup, we are all doing a lot of things. It's not that we are not doing, but I think awareness from the teacher's point of view and motivation from the teacher, I think these are very, very important, because unless the teacher is motivated, unless the teacher believes in this kind of an educational scenario, nothing is going to be possible. So thank you, sir, for expressing the expectation. And coming to the National Education Policy, I will talk a lot about the NCFFS, that is National Curriculum Framework for the foundational years. So just a little bit we'll run through what the National Education Policy is. Basically, a National Education Policy is a very comprehensive framework that helps in the development of education in the country. And it comes once in a few decades. So NEP 2020 actually replaces the 1986 NEP, National Education Policy. The last one came in 1986, and then we had the Plan of Action in the year 1991. So after 34 years, we are having a new education policy. We've all set with all what was being done all along, but this education policy is, something which has come up after a very, very long period. And I think it's a complete overhaul of the educational system. That's what is envisaged in the NEP. Now, as I just told you, 1991 was the Plan of Action, the educational policy that came, and in 2005 only we got the National Curriculum Framework. See the difference in the number of years. Whereas the NEP came out in 2020, and in the year 2022, within 2 years, the National Curriculum Frameworks have started coming out. I think that itself is a very big thing, and it indicates that a lot of it's not just a policy, but it is something that we all want to kind of see it in practice, basically. Now, we all know about Sustainable Development Goals, and the goal 4 of Sustainable Development Goal says that we need to provide inclusive and equitable quality education and provide lifelong opportunities for all by the year 2030. Now, 2030 is just 6 years from now. It is not an easy task. It's not easy at all. It's quite an arduous thing to achieve by the year 2030. So in 3 phases, from now till 2025, then to 30, then to 35 is what is envisaged. But it is going to take time, and a lot of things are still not yet in place. But nevertheless, a lot of schools have started thinking about it, and they're trying to do many things. So this educational policy looks at an overhaul of, the educational system itself, providing, best possible quality education. So that's what NEP 2020 stands about. And it is, though it is very aspirational, the policy aims at something very, very, very important. First is developing knowledge. Now, you will wonder, we all are doing that only. So what's so great about this policy? But the right kind of knowledge today, every day, we've seen in the last 3 years, the kind of dramatic changes in education, the kind of dramatic influence of technology in our lives, in our educational systems. So development of knowledge is something that I think as teachers, what we have to think is, how better can we be in comparison to the internet? If all what I can give is available on the internet, I have to be relevant. I have to be, better than that. So how do I qualify for that? So the policy talks about development of knowledge that is contemporary, knowledge that is, interesting, knowledge that is not very outdated knowledge that sometimes we've been teaching. So that is important. And skill set development. At the end of the day, we all need to achieve certain skills. Our students, our children have to achieve. So skill sets, value-based education is something that has really been spoken about in the policy document. And commitment to human rights, so it is awareness about human rights, awareness that every person has got the right to study, the right to live, everything needs to come in, and sustainable development in living. We live in a times when we are exposed to so much of, hazards. So how do we live with using sustainable practices, that is important. And looking at a global well-being. Now, the COVID-19 taught us that it is not just our own problem. If I'm affected, my neighbor is affected, my city is affected, my state is affected, country and the world. So it really showed us that well-being is just not well-being of an individual, but it is global well-being. So how everybody, like because of the digital divide is broken now that we are all connected. So global well-being is something that the policy talks about. And the best part is deep-rooted pride of being Indian. Everywhere you will see culture, you will see that, how in children we have to instill this deep-rooted pride of being Indian. I think it's time that the way the country is progressing, the way our country is being showcased in the international arena, I'm sure all of you will agree that we're all proud to be Indians and we've got a status, we've got something. So in children also, it is important to bring this particularly. So now the policy talks about, again, it's aspirational, it's high, it's like huge, but can we achieve it? So if we have to achieve it, our teaching methodologies, our pedagogy, how should it be? It should be something which is experiential. Give opportunities for children to experience an activity rather than just rote learning. And it is completely talks at many places against the rote learning and give them experiences. And learning that is holistic, all aspects of development, be it physical, emotional, socio-emotional, cognitive, everything. And integrated learning and not looking at just one thing alone. So integrated learning, integrating subjects, integrating experiences, a lot of integration is spoken about. Inquiry driven. Now, typically, we don't like, I think as educators, we are so used to being the boss. We will ask questions and children have to answer. But inquiry driven, are we encouraging questions from the children? Are we encouraging that? I think that's something very important. And let children discover. At all stages, discovery learning, not only in the preschool, in the primary, in higher classes, right? And learning that is learner-centered and not teacher-centered, and a lot of discussion in the classroom, right? So the teacher's role is becoming very, very important as a facilitator. Not that I know that I am the teacher is the most important person in the class, no doubt about it. But you lead the class, you lead the discussion, and also give room for flexibility. Sometimes we go with our lesson plans and we think this is what we have to do today. But there may be a discussion, something has come up from the class. I think it's important for us to be open, to be, portions we will finish. It's not that we will not finish, but little flexibility in the way we interact, and to make when we provide such an environment, learning will be fun. So the pedagogy it should be like this. Experiential, holistic, integrated, inquiry-driven, discovery-oriented, learner-centered, discussion-based, and flexible. Now, coming to the National Curriculum Framework, the National Education Policy speaks about 5+3+3+4 that we all know. That is the foundation years, which is from the year 3 to the year 8. So 3 to 8 years comes together as one group. So that's the first one. Then you have 3. Then you have another 3, and 9, 10, 11, 12 they come into one bracket now. So like now it is 10 plus 2. Now it has become 5+3+3+4. So this is the first ever integrated curriculum for children between this National Curriculum Framework, NCF, for the foundational years, basically. It is a continuum from 3 years to 8 years. It is looked as a continuum. It's not looked as preschool and primary. Now, till now, how we've been functioning is preschool will function separately, primary will function separately, and we don't have any connection with each other. Preschool teachers think they do the best, primary teachers think they do the best, and we don't come to some kind of a congruence at all. And it's a typical thing, since I am with the preschool and the primary, what we hear is, they say pre-primary में कुछ नहीं करते, नाच गाना बहुत मजा है, और primary में the children don't even know how to read and write. Now the pre-primary teacher will tell, we do so much of activity-based learning and we send them to the primary. There they make them write, copy from the board. Our children are not enjoying it all. We had so much of play-based learning. But now we have to join hands and we have to work together. We can no longer say that you're doing something, I'm doing something, especially this 3 to 8 years. From nursery, from junior KG, senior KG, class 1 and class 2. Nursery also included. So this continuum, right? So if an activity is planned in the nursery, we have to take it across the curriculum. We have to take it across the classes. Suppose you're teaching shapes. What will I do in the nursery class? What will I do in junior KG? What will I do senior KG, first and second standard? Shapes only we will teach, but we can't teach the same thing to the children. But we are going to increase the complexity. But unless we sit together and plan, we cannot have this. So this is the first integrated curriculum for children between 3 to 8 years. And as I just told you, and this national curriculum framework, it is, if you read the policy document, it's so much of research-based document. They have looked at neuroscience researchers, they've looked at brain studies, they've looked at cognitive science, they've looked at Indian tradition, they've looked at our practices, right? All are right from Vedantic practices, typical Indian traditions, everything is taken into the policy in a very, very beautiful manner. And the policy talks about, the national curriculum framework talks about play-based approach. And most important is achieving foundational literacy and numeracy. The NEP speaks about foundational literacy and numeracy. In the few slides, I will tell you what it is. What we have to understand is we have a big learning crisis in our country. It is not that all the children can read and write. Children who are in higher classes also do not know very basic mathematical operations. They cannot read what is there. They cannot read signboards. So we are not in a great state as of now. So that is the shocking thing that came out. And it is important for us to address that and see to it that we achieve foundational literacy and numeracy. Now, you know, generally when a policy comes, as lay people or even as people in the field, we criticize and we say, this is not going to work, that is not going to work, both aspirational hai, ye hai, wo hai, those kind of things. But if you see, this didn't come out with just one person's idea. Lot of people, all the stakeholders were involved in the national curriculum framework. 10 lakh students and parents were part of this. 1.3 lakh teachers and educators were part of this. 1,550 district level institutions were involved. 35 groups of institutions were involved. 500 papers were reviewed, 4,000 experts got into this, and 25 specific papers, especially in dealing with the foundational years, and around 175 members of NCERT have worked. I personally know a few of them who worked for this policy. They've done a tremendous job. And the whole curriculum is like a manual, it's like a guide for the teacher. I would urge all the schools to at least photocopy. It's there in the national domain, any portal you will get it. Please keep that, download copies or keep it on your phone and keep referring to it, because it's a framework, you know, it's a beautiful guideline. You look at it and you will learn. And it is typically kept for the teacher in mind. Yeah, it speaks about, you know, how we need to change our curriculum and individual pedagogy. What practices we need to change. How can we better the overall learning experiences for children? And for that, now who's the one who's providing the learning experience? It is the teacher. The teacher plays a pivotal role. The teacher is the one who's the heart of the education system. End of the day, computer can be there, ChatGPT can be there, AI can come in, everything can come in, but I don't personally, I feel that there can be no replacement for us teachers. If there was a replacement, we wouldn't be existing even today. So it's important that the teacher is recognized, and the whole thing is for the teachers. And, you know, how the teacher, you can use it in such a manner that it is so relevant. It is reliable, accessible, and relevant to the teacher, right? And it is looking at the real scenario, not that it is not looking at the scenario, but it is indeed aspirational. It is a bit high, not that we will be able to achieve it. We have to look at that also. No? But these are things which, I'm part of the Association for Early Childhood Education and Development, AECD, which is a national organization. And, on Saturday, we had a session on best practices by a school in Ayodhya. It was momentous that the school also we showcased. I would send the link to Uma ma'am, and she can post it in the CRDE group. Please watch that YouTube video. Not that I'm promoting AECD, but the thing is, the whole show showcased the work of a school in Ayodhya, and so beautifully. All that I'm going to talk today, you will find it in the. They have put videos and pictures and everything they are doing. So this is not something that you cannot do. There are so many organizations that we have showcased in AECD through these webinars. We call them spotlight webinars, and phenomenal work people are doing across the country. Take even Chhattisgarh, village in somewhere in Assam, somewhere in, West Bengal. Lot of work happens. Urban schools, we think that we are only doing everything. But the fact is that a lot of things are happening very nicely across our country. And so that gives us the feeling that these things are possible. It's not that, it is just there in the curriculum framework. We can do it. Like, as we all know, the saying, where there is a will, there is a way. So coming back to the foundational years. Now, foundational years means it is 3 to 6 years and 6 to 8 years. Now, 3 to 6 years, we all know, is the preschool stage. It's either the early childhood education in Anganwadis or early childhood in Balvatikas, and then early childhood in preschool. 6 to 8 is the age where children are in grade 1 and grade 2. Now, one of the most important things this policy has done is, for the first time, Government of India has recognized people working between 3 to 6 years. I always say that we are never recognized by the Government of India. We don't even come in their purview. But thanks to the NEP 2020, we have been recognized. So the foundational years for the first time has been given recognition, because this is the foundation. Beautifully, they've even titled it. Because if the foundation is not strong, what can we do? The building cannot be strong. And we leave the first 6 years and then think about doing great things after 6. So I don't think that's the right way to look at it. So the foundational years in this policy is given. So from the time the child is 3, because you look at brain research, around 89%, I think, the brain development is over by the time the child is 6. Now, after that, the child comes to school. What are we trying to do with the child when the brain development is almost over? So we have to look at the early years. We have to look at the foundational years, try to give in as many experiences as possible in this stage. So the 4 models that we can see, generally the early childhood education, it's either the Anganwadi, which is a standalone Anganwadi, typically in which we see across the country, or it can be an Anganwadi that is attached to the primary school, or the pre-primary sections in existing primary schools and standalone preschools. This is how ECC centers function in our country. Now, as I told you, what does this NCFS, National Curriculum Framework Foundational Stage, focus on? It focuses a lot on emotional development, social development. It does focus on physical development. It says when the child comes to class hungry, we all know when we are hungry, we can't concentrate. So it's very important that the child eats nourishing food, the good food, nutritive food that is given to the child. I have my trainees here, and we have a paper on health, hygiene, and nutrition. I'm sure they must be wondering, why are we having it in the early childhood? I'm a teacher, I'm not going to cook and give them. But it's very important for the teacher to understand the nutrition, because once the physical well-being is there, mental well-being also will take place well. So it talks about emotional development, social development, and cognitive development. So, cognitive, not just knowledge, just not understanding concepts. It's not just that, but developing curiosity, developing creativity, developing critical thinking in children, that they have to work together in a group, cooperative learning, teamwork, again, that is social development. For emotional development, if you see empathy, recognize, being sensitive to the needs of others, interaction with environment, with teachers, with peers. So it's a whole ecosystem that has to be looked at. It's not the child alone. It's a child in the classroom. It's a child who's coming from a particular society. So we all are connected. It is not that we can just be independent and say, I can do things. It's not like that. So as I just told you, there is a learning crisis. So children, there is learning loss. These are big statistics which are actually very disturbing. And if you look at it, children, this was the ACER report in just before the NEP came, but nothing much has changed till of late. So children, only 68% can read small text with comprehension, understanding what they are reading. Then if they put up poems and posters, only 65% can read. Simple addition, subtraction, the 3-digit, only, this is in grade 3, 57% are able to do. And what type of number operation, whether it has to be addition, subtraction, multiplication, what is the mental operation I have to do? Only 59% of children are understanding this. So this is very disturbing, and all the more the reason for, for us to look at foundational literacy. And they've seen that this learning gap is happening. Now, where is this learning gap? Children enrolled in primary school, they don't achieve foundational literacy and numeracy. Now, where is the problem? The problem probably happens before they enter grade 1. Because they come to grade 1 with lacking in school readiness. Straight, we, as preschool teachers, it's important to ready the children to formal schooling. Straight away, without, like reading readiness, writing readiness, number readiness, without preparing for all that, we straight away go to number, which is where the problem is. So children need to be ready. An activity for auditory discrimination, visual discrimination, audio-visual discrimination, and directionality. These are 4 components of reading readiness. Are we doing all this so that the child understands what it is to read? Straight away, you can't expect them to read, but give them as many activities before that so children are able to read. Then the curriculum is developmentally not very appropriate. Lack of qualified and trained staff, and less than optimal pedagogy. So these are some of the learning gaps are caused because of these. So teacher preparation is important. As a teacher educator, I have a very, very important role in seeing to it that the teachers that who come out of our college are competent enough to handle a preschool class. Teacher education, pre-service teacher training, in-service teacher training, everything becomes very, very important because, as I told you, the teacher plays the most important role. Now, this foundational literacy, basically we'll look at a few slides on this later also. When you say foundational literacy, it is the skills that one requires we require to read, speak, write, and interpret our thoughts. So if we are literate, we have to listen with comprehension. Though literacy, we all know, when you say you're a literate person, you're able to read and write your name. Then uske baad nothing is all left like that, consider that we are literate. But that's not being literate, isn't it? So, listening with comprehension, speaking with comprehension, that means we listen and we understand what someone is saying. We speak, we read with comprehension and also read for joy. Today's generation, reading has become not the popular, you like to see everything on a gadget. Still, at least read from there, and writing for various purposes. So, it's very important that we understand all these things. It is not just, rote learning, mugging up and writing or looking at the board and writing. No, we have to understand what we are reading. So, because this is a big problem, the learning gap shows that we need to, the objectives are, don't worry about the lot of things that are written on the right, just understand that meaningful reading, that by the time they come to grade 3, they should be able to read with comprehension, read pictures, read words, symbols, everything. And a very important thing with the policy talks again and again is bring in the outside class experiences into the class. Many times as teachers, we just say, okay, we'll discuss that later. Let's finish the portion. Let's look at the lesson. Let's focus on this. But the policy says the outside experiences are important. Children are not blank slates. It's not that we are going to fill them with all beautiful things inside the classroom. They come with experiences. So let's respect those experiences. And remember that the connect with the school, the home, and the society, that's something very important. So we have to establish that connect. They say, no, it takes a village to raise a child. It really takes a village to raise a child. A child can't be just raised by the parent alone. The parent plays a very important role, no doubt about it. The teacher, the community, the child goes to play, he's meeting people, she's meeting people. So all of us together play a very important role. And I think the policy values all these things in a nice manner. So the NEP talks about a few important initiatives. I won't go into detail, just for understanding. It's Nipun Bharat, which is National Initiative for Proficiency in Reading with Understanding and Numeracy. Okay, that is what is Nipun Bharat. They want to establish that by 27, by the time the child goes to grade 3. Then Vidya Pravesh is another initiative where it's a 3-month, 4 hours a day play-based school, kind of a preparation, right? Even if the children have not gone through a preschool, Vidya Pravesh, where they will get, it's like an interim measure NCRT has designed, for children in grade 1. So they will understand all these things. See, urban setup, we know everything happens. But then India is a land of villages. There are so many places where opportunities are not given. There is a single teacher school. All the children are under one teacher in one roof, and everybody is supposed to study. Now, how do you handle that? So it's important to make children be ready for formal schooling and include values, cultural diversity, have activities for physical, social, natural environment, and all that. Then we have this Bal Vatika program, which is a 1-year program before grade 1. Basically, Bal Vatika will also be like an effective, developmentally appropriate preschool curriculum because NCRT has designed the guidelines. So children are ready for formal schooling. It's not like rote and it's not formal schooling, but it is completely play-based. Now, what are all there in the National Curriculum Framework? It's a very beautiful thing which has come, which is the Panchakosha Vikas, is a very ancient Indian concept. So that our body is made up of 5 sheets, is what, our spiritual texts, Vedantic texts speak a lot about the Panchakosha Vikas. So these are the 5 layers. The Annamaya Kosha is the physical layer, the outside. The Pranamaya Kosha is a life force energy. Manonmaya Kosha is the mind. Vijnanamaya Kosha, which we think is most of the time active, which is the intellectual layer. At the end, it has to lead to Anandamaya, the inner self. The joy that, we say, that at the end of the day, whatever we do has to give us happiness. If there is no happiness, there is no, there's nothing. You can earn a lot of money. You can live in big houses. You can have everything under the sun. But if you're unhappy, everything seems useless. So that joy, that anandam, that, we are, the core of a human being is the happiness quotient. We have to be happy. So, they beautifully brought in that Indian concept into the curriculum. And I would like to I know I've spoken a lot, but just like to show you all this small video and we'll just deliberate on this. Can you hear?
Yes.
My name is Madhavi. I'm from Alibi. My name is Madhavi. I'm from Alibi. I speak Malayalam, but I'm just like you. My name is Nattuvar. I'm from Srinagar. My name is Nattuvar. I'm from Srinagar. I speak Kashmiri, but I'm just like you. My name is Shubhrata. I'm from Kolkata. My name is Shubhrata. I'm from Kolkata. I speak Bengali, but I'm just like you. My name is Sundara. I am from Vadodara. My name is Sundara. I'm from Vadodara. I speak Gujarati, but I'm just like you. My name is Shamsher. I'm from Ajmer. My name is Shamsher. I'm from Ajmer. I speak Urdu, but I'm name is Benjamin. I'm from Panjim. My name is Benjamin. I'm from Panjim. I speak Konkani, but I'm just like you. My name is Rani Mai. I'm from Chennai. My name is Rani Mai. I'm from Chennai. I speak Tamil, but I'm just like you. My name is Jaswinder. I'm from Chandigarh. My name is Jaswinder. I'm from Chandigarh. I speak Panchadi, but I'm just like you. My name is Madhuri. I'm from Ratnagiri. My name is Madhuri. I'm from Ratnagiri. I speak Marathi, but I'm just like you. My name is Jamshedji. I'm from Panchkini. My name is Jamshedji. I'm from Panchkini. I speak Parsi, but I'm just like you. My name is Bindia. I'm from India. My name is Bindia. I'm from India. I speak Hindi, and I'm just like you. And I'm just like you. And I'm just like you.
Okay. Why did I play this? In connection with the NEP NCF
Yeah, integrated learning.
integrated learning, yes.
Regarding the use of mother tongue.
Use of mother tongue.
Unity in the diversity.
Diversity.
Unity in diversity, yes. Speaks
Ma'am,
yeah,
everyone have a right to get education.
everyone has a right to get education, whoever is, whichever part of the country. Okay. So the culture
also,
which, yeah.
Sorry, they also learn the communication skills very well with this.
Yes, communication skills, right? So a very holistic approach, if you look at language, you look at the joy, the emotions. I will just, how I've just related it to the Panchakosha Vikas. You can probably, that is a song where you talk about physically, when you play this kind of a song in the class, you will be able to make the children sing and dance with you. So there's a lot of physical development, Sharirik Vikas, which happens. And, you know, there is, when they are happy, when they are like, you know, full of charged up with energy, a simple act like, as ma'am said, communication, singing, reciting a rhyme or singing a song gives a lot of positive energy. And that's very important for the various body function systems to function well. So all digestive, respiratory, circulatory, nervous system, they are all kind of, you know, they function better. And that is the pranic vikas. And then you have this mansik vikas, emotional and mental development, because children are happy. There is, you know, when typically when you do an activity like this, they listen, they are concentrating, there is peace, willpower. So actually the story, if you see the title, this is a story about the blue jackal, which I'm sure all of us know, where the jackal falls into the blue color and it tries to fool around everybody. You know, when you do some story like that, a simple story like that, actually. So here it is, you know, the jackal wants to somehow like, you know, be the lead kind of a thing. So that willpower it is having a lot of courage, because it is faking itself to be another animal, which all the other animals kind of get scared about. And when it is caught, basically, how to handle that negative emotion. So any story, any song, if you take, for example, like when in this story, the blue jackal, how do you handle the situation? How do you handle when you're caught? How do you handle when people are not very nice to you? Because then the whole thing happens. No? So, and at the same time, when you're happy. So all this brings in, so again, emotional and mental development happens. And Baudik Vikas, where, a lot of thinking, analyzing, divergent thinking, putting things together, imagination, creativity, everything comes in. And the last is the spiritual development, the Chaitzik Vikas, the Anandamaya Kosha can be achieved here, where there's happiness, love and compassion, spontaneity, aesthetic sense, basically turning inwards. As I just told, the joy and knowing that we are that Ananda, which is, which is the core, the very nature of all of us is to be happy through these activities. So whatever curriculum that we follow, if it goes through these steps, it becomes very easy. And that is how they have integrated. Our Indian philosophy is so beautiful that the entire Western world comes to learn from us. Sometimes we don't value it, but then the whole idea is to bring in this into our educational system and, take the best out of all that. So the policy talks about, the curriculum framework speaks about, there are curricular goals, there are competencies and learning outcomes that have to be achieved. So it is divided like this. The first is the aims of education. The aims of education comes at probably the policy making level, at a higher level, how curriculum is developed, how do we fund, how do we look at people's capacity and all that. It's a higher level. As teachers, we may not be directly involved, but nevertheless, there is an involvement, especially when it is curriculum development. Then there is curricular goals. So the curricular goals are nothing but statements that give directions to curriculum development and implementation. How do you achieve this goal? If language development is your goal, how do you achieve that? Then competencies. So competencies are something that you can observe, that you can assess very systematically. The entire framework is there in the policy document. Every aspect of development is taken: physical, social, emotional, cognitive, ethical, everything is there. We just have to map it to the competency, to the goal, and then see what type are we achieving that. And the learning outcome. At the end of the day, over a period of time, what is the learning that happens? Is it progressive? We have to see that. I have some examples. You can have a look at it. So this is what I just told you. Then this is the curricular goal. First is the aims of education. See, aim of education would be learning, teaching children from known to unknown, general to specific. We go like that only in whatever. Even when we are talking, we talk about general things and come specifically. Now, these are the curricular goals. Now, the domains that are being described are physical development, socio-emotional and ethical development, cognitive development, language and literacy, aesthetic and cultural development. So, for example, if you take physical development, then let's take language and literacy. So this one, CG9. Children develop effective communication skills for day-to-day interactions in 2 languages. They talk about languages, and you must have heard also in the NEP that mother tongue is given a lot of importance. Now, we all got scared because me, for example, if I have to teach in Marathi, I can't even speak Marathi. So how will I teach in Marathi? So what happens to my job? So we all had this fear, but they're very clearly saying that some amount of Marathi, that you can functional Marathi basically, so that the child feels at ease. So they talk about language 1. L1 is the language which the child is most comfortable with. That is usually the mother tongue. Today, we can't even say mother tongue because there are mixed marriages and the children speak one tongue at home. The home language is what they call it. It could be Hindi in our context, it could be English, it could be Marathi, we don't know. The mixed marriages are so common today that, then it doesn't become mother tongue or father tongue. It becomes what is everybody knows kind of a thing. So the language which the child is most familiar with is called as L1. The next familiar language is L2. So for a child in Mumbai, probably the L1 could be Marathi, L1 could be Marathi, L2 can be Hindi, L3 can be English. So it comes like that. So not necessarily that it has to be English, which is important. And, so they speak about the home language, the language which the child is comfortable with. So whether the child can interact in 2 languages and developing fluency in reading and writing in language 1, whichever language that is. But this is again the problem that we'll face. Marathi can be the home language, but do you know to read and write Marathi? Does a child know to read and write Marathi? May not. we are focused on English learning. So then it becomes, right? So that is where the problems are going to happen. And children begin to read and write in language 2. First is language 1, then language 2. Many times what happens if we want that English-based education, that takes forefront and the mother tongue goes back. And I have some slides, but I can just tell you now that, a lot of research has shown that when you study in the mother tongue, you are able to understand concepts better. Now look at your parents, your grandparents. They have not studied in English medium, if you see. They would have studied in their mother tongue. I always tell this in every forum that I speak about NCF. My mother is an 82-year-old person. She has studied from class 1 to class 10 in Tamil medium, right? She would always tell that when they went, they did intermediate. So when they went to intermediate class, they were very scared. 10 years we have studied everything in, Tamil. Suddenly you have to be with everybody who speaks English and write everything in English. And, English was studied. It is not that English was not studied. But the feeling is like, how will I manage? I'm very proud and I'm very happy to say that my mother is an MSc MPhil. She retired as head of the Department of Zoology in a city college in Chennai. She is as fluent or even better than me in speaking English, in writing English, in reading English, in analytical thinking, in everything. If you ask me tax and all that, I still don't know. She's much better than me in all that. Okay, you look at her, she looks like that typical mommy, an 80-year-old whom we call. She's like that. She looks. But when she opens her mouth, my son had brought his friends recently. And he said, the friends were foreigners. So, and the moment that my mother started speaking, first she looks a very typical Tamil mommy, old lady, who does not look very impressive in terms of like a modern lady. But he said the moment Party started speaking, my friends were zapped that this lady is speaking so much English and she was able to converse. So that is that generation which studied in the mother tongue. That's what I'm trying to say. So when you study in the mother tongue, you learn concepts very, very clearly. You understand, and it is very easy to learn the next language. Somehow that we have that more for that English, that we feel that, that only when you study in English, everything is. I have a lot of my students who tell that, we have a language problem. When they say language problem, it's English language problem. It's not a language problem. But it's important to understand that your mother tongue is good enough, and then learning of the next language too happens very easily, very quickly, without any problem. You don't have to teach again and again once you've understood concepts in your mother tongue. So these are the curricular goals which it speaks about. So there are lots of curricular goals which are there. And learning competencies. So if you take reading, I put this reading so that you understand that, for example, if you take children begin to read and write in language 2. Okay, we go to language 1, it has all these things. They'll be able to understand the structure, the word, the punctuation, what are the letters of the alphabet, right? Read stories, read passages, read short stories, understand the stories, read short poems, right? Comprehend new items, write paragraph, So like that, step by step, everything is given. So it's very beautifully done. So now what we have to do as teachers, look at this and map it to the activity. Am I doing an activity which my child, am I giving an opportunity for children to read short poems and begin to appreciate the poem? Can they say anything? Can they write a paragraph? Can they write, compositions, comprehension? Compositions, many schools don't have compositions, or 5 lines are written on the board and you have to copy that. But let them speak. Give them some cues, give them some words on the blackboard you write, let them use it and develop the composition. As ma'am said, when I started my career, I started as a primary teacher. That I worked at Godrej School. So children, first standard, when you write compositions, phenomenally they will write. You have to just talk to them. They are so, that school readiness happens in the preschool there. So when they come to class 1, it's so easy for them. So I will never, I will always say that it is very easy to make them write compositions. It's not that they can't write. Children have to be given that opportunity to think, to express what they think about that topic. We spoon feed, we're putting 5 sentences and tell them, mug up this and write it. That's not the way to go. Then the learning outcome. The policy talks about the learning outcomes. At the end of the day, what are we achieving? That should be observed, that should be able to measure, we should be able to measure, we should be able to assess, right? Now, the continuum that I'm talking about, from 3 to 8. So nursery, junior, senior, first standard, second standard. So suppose you're talking about the competency is to develop meaningful conversation. Now, in the nursery class, the child should be able to listen attentively and speak in short conversation with people around. That then junior KG can initiate a conversation in daily life with peers, can start something, talk to their peers and say what happened. In senior KG, they can engage in conversation based on events. You narrate a story, you have a discussion about it, you ask and they can ask questions. Then in class 1, they can have conversations about a particular topic, or they wait for their turn to talk. They realize that they have to wait for somebody else to finish, then only I can talk. Class 2 level, they can maintain the thread of the conversation. Multiple exchanges. So someone is speaking, I wait, and then I answer. Teacher is speaking, another child is speaking. So 10 people are talking, but I understand what each one is saying. So this is the continuum that they're talking about. It's not something different, unique. So if short conversations, you're giving chance for children to speak in conversations is spoken very well in the topic. They talk about, structured conversation. They talk about free conversations. I won't tell them now. I think in coming slides, it's coming, different types of conversations you can have. So these are the competencies. Are we developing all this for children between 3 to 8? Right? So how do we develop this? We already saw the pedagogy, but we need to be providing an atmosphere where, safe and stimulating environment, play-based, good relationship between teacher and the child, lot of physical development activities, looking at the needs of individual children, home language, which I just told you, and learning experiences that are connected to the children, connected to where they live, their context, not something out of, we have a fancy of teaching things that is beyond the child's understanding. Why talk about Arctic region and tundra region and all that in the early years? I'm talking in the foundational years. When they first let them learn about the Himalayas and let them learn about our own country and things, then move to all that. All that is required. I'm not saying we should not be teaching all those things. Go again from known to unknown. What children have already understood, go from that previous learning. And whatever learning should address all domains, physical, motor, social, emotional, language, cognitive, aesthetic, creativity, or ethical learning, everything should come in. Now, so all this is very nice to talk about, to hear, to write in exams, to discuss, to deliberate. But is it easy? It's not going to be easy. How do we do that? So for bringing all these competencies, we have to be planned. That is what is important. So now we all know about they call it Panchadi, which is a 5-step learning process. But it's a very beautiful thing, which we all know. It's not that we don't know. When I explain, you will say, I know this, I do this. But certain things we should look at ourselves and say, am I practicing this? So the first is the Aditi, which is the introduction. We all introduce the topic. We all have a specific introduction for a topic. You're teaching plans, you start with a particular story or a rhyme or a discussion or whatever it is. Some introduction comes in first. Then comes the Bodh, which is a conceptual understanding. What you're going to teach in that plans, we discuss that in detail. Then Abhyas, the practice. You give practice of that what you've taught. Children do some activities basically here. Then they apply. Now plan, so you apply that particular thing onto, I'm very happy to say that our last issue of our e-newsletter was focused on the Panchakosha Vikas and the Panchadi. The faculty and our students, our senior students have together, we've come up with very beautiful activities. I will pass that link to Uma ma'am. You can circulate it, ma'am. They've taken a lot of effort, and it is not, so you will see that it is an action, not just directly we are saying something, but how you can bring in, how you take a topic and go from Aditi to Bodh to Abhyas practice to Prayog, application of the knowledge that you have learned, and to expand it. Yeah, so I'll just show you. So in the introduction, You establish with connection with previous knowledge. That is very important. They can be questioning, exploring, all those things, small projects and activities. Sorry. Right. And then the both or the conceptual, where you actually teach, you experiment, you discuss, you read. The teacher plans, or the lesson planning comes in here. And practice, abhyas of the practice is the children do a lot of activities. It could be group work, small projects, like plants, they could do germination. They go around and, plant some trees, plants, not trees, basically some seeds they plant, some activity that children can do. Then application is how they apply to everyday life. So what do they see around? And they can, Shramdan kind of a thing, whatever that the children can do, they can apply that knowledge. And prasar, which is the expansion, is something which is prasar, which is important. You spread the knowledge, you talk to friends. You introduce, if you talk, then bring in new stories about plants or singing or reading new books, playing new games. So, all these things, why are we doing it? When you go methodical, when you go in a step-by-step manner, we do till application maybe, or we do till prayas practice. But this application and expansion are something very important because it strengthens the neural connection in the brain. The more, now this, first when I prepared this PPT and my first talk about NCFFS was, I was moderating a session. So I had to read up entirely to ask questions. Then it became, I'm preparing, somebody asked me to talk about this, so then you get into the detail. So expand, when your knowledge is shared, there is so much of learning that happens. You learn yourself. So give children an opportunity to discuss, to talk, so that expansion stage is what we all need to look at. So this is the 5-step Panchadi, which the curriculum framework talks about. And how should the learning environment be? We all know it should be play-based. Conversations, free conversations, or let the children speak about their experiences, or a structured conversation. Now, when do you have the structured conversation? You can have it in circle time. You can have a theme-based conversation. You can have some small experiments. You can have guided conversation, show and tell, picture talk. So I just have this is story of the talking cave. I'm not going to show you the story. It's how the jackal comes, and the jackal lives in a cave. The jackal comes and one day sees that there are some footprints. So it's actually the lion who comes, who's hungry, who's not got anything to eat. And the lion thinks, somebody must be living in this cave. Let me be here, catch that animal and eat. So the lion goes into the cave. Now the jackal comes inside and sees some footprints. And then the jackal thinks, oh my God, there is a lion inside and I'm sure he's waiting to eat me. So the jackal then decides, let me check if that lion is there or not. So he goes near the cave and says, oh cave, I've come, you're not welcome me, and all those things. And like every day, why are you not saying, hello, jackal, welcome, how was your day? So the lion inside thinks, oh, kuch to hai. And so the lion speaks, oh, jackal, and welcome, jackal, and all those things. So the jackal knows that the lion is inside and it runs away. So this is the story. So if you are introducing the story or you're talking to the children about this, can be the introduction part of it. And how do you take something like this? After that, you can have a focused conversation. You can ask children, what is a cave? How are caves formed? Okay, I'm not going into the details. Then you can have a guided conversation where you can ask them, what type of creatures live in caves? There are creatures that live inside the cave. There are creatures that hang out in the entrance of the caves. They don't live inside, but they are outside. So you can give them an idea and tell them, now these are called as troglophils, like foxes, bears, insects like cockroach or spider, even salamander, frog. They all live just outside. So you can guide the conversation. Then you can probably do some experiments with caves. With this chalk, you can do it. I found this interesting, so I put it here. And how caves are formed. Basically, the science behind the formation of caves. All that you can explain. So you take it ahead. So caves need not be just a story and leave it at that, but you can intrigue the children's thinking by asking all these questions. Storytelling is a very, very important method in which we all love stories. I'm sure whether you heard it or not, when I told about the story of my mother and the language, I'm sure all of us heard it because it's a story. कितना lecture सुनेंगे? मगर stories make it interesting. So bring in stories into your classrooms as much as you can. Know the story with voice modulation. I think as teachers, we know all this. And have toy-based education, it says. Music, art and craft, field trips, games, indoor and outdoor activities. So the pedagogy must be fun. It must be filled with all this. And believe me, this is not that it's something which we can't do. We can do if we are planned very well. So the next important thing is teaching learning resources, the teaching aids. How many of us use teaching aids? Be it a PowerPoint, be it whatever.
I
Yeah.
use a lot.
Use a lot, yes. So teachers, we have to use teaching aids. Now this PowerPoint is a teaching aid. So then there is some concentration. We look at pictures, we look at bullets. And today's children want all these things. They like the smart board. Or are you having a model? Whatever it is. So teaching aid, and the best teaching aid is the teacher herself. You look at the way you narrate the story, the way you don't need a prop also sometimes you will see. You can do it so well with all your facial expression, gestures and everything. So teaching aids. So the government of India has come with this Jadui Pitara, it is called. It's a magic box. So they have all the resources in the magic box. You know, I did a session for our own teachers of our SIE school, and they are going to make a magic box. We're having that session on 31st. So probably if I had done it earlier, I would have told about what all they prepared. But it's a box which you can use in the classroom. I think the entire nursery to second standard can come together and make all these and put it together. Every class must have this magic box. So whatever the reading cards, you can have some puzzles, some blocks. So if you see, this is how the government has planned, but I'm sure as teachers we can do better also than just what is being shown in the picture. But that is something that they're speaking about, usage of teaching aids and assessments. Now, at the end of the day, assessments are important. How do you gauge whether the child has understood, has learned? Now, this is important because it's not a formal giving a test and getting answer and mark. And I'm sure schools now, we have all started with comprehensive, that CCE, which is all in practice. But along with that, they're talking about observations. Look at children. When we observe children, we learn so much. We learn whether they've understood, whether they have not understood, right? Observations in class. I think as teachers, we all do it. We all know it. Like it is, we become like CIDs there in the class. Whether whatever it is, you can look at the child and you will know something is not okay. And you ask correctly. So we've kind of I don't know if it's a gift for all of us or whether we've trained over a period of time. All this we are very good at. So we should use that well in our assessment of children. So you can have anecdotal records, like, and then you take an incident that happens, an anecdote that happens, and you write it down. I have an example here. This is from the framework. It's a sample. So what is the context? Right? I teach a class of 4 to 5 year olds. This is an observation I made of something that caught my attention while I was doing a story time with children. So all the details are given. This is a format which is given. You can make your own formats. Now the observation is, I read the story, Rajesh hugs her sister to my class. Devi got agitated and pushed around the children sitting beside her. After the story reading, I asked the children to draw a picture of their family. Devi did this, but blackened out the boy in the picture using her crayon. I asked her about it and she said, that's my brother. I don't like him. He always teases me and takes my food. Mother and father like him. This small incident is telling so much about the child. It is telling that she's not having a good relationship with her brother. She's not communicated this with her parents. And because of that, she's pushing other children and all that, it's affecting her behavior. Sometimes we just look at the behavior but an activity like this, when you do it, so observation becomes important. Now, it's not just, okay, I've done an anecdotal record, I've written down. The most important is a plan of action, as you can see down. So it's important. Next step would be to talk to Devi's parents. Let them, let the brother and the child, Devi, play together. Let them share. Let them do something together. Let them also love Devi as much as, because Devi is somewhere feeling My parents are being partial. My parents like my brother more than me, right? So it's important that we can have, so give more attention to Devi's responses and attitudes in class towards stories. So be very open about it. Now you will say there are 50 children in my class. How do I do that? It is difficult, but some things can come out which can help you to help the child basically. Yeah. So this is an anecdotal record, or you can have checklists like this. So in 3 quarters, how the child, you have a list. It's easy for us. We have to tick whether they are able to follow instruction, whether they're able to read, they're able to 2-letter word, 3-letter word, whatever it is, checklist. Right? So it speaks about anecdotal records, checklists, event sampling. An event has happened. It's very important that we have to sample that event and put it, understand why, suddenly children push each other. And I think as teachers, we have to understand. The other thing is analyzing artifacts, which is their drawings, whatever the projects they've done, so look at it and, gauge the children's growth and development based on that. So these are the different methods. So they talk about, again, I know it is not easy, but the teacher again plays a role, teacher narrative summary, where, the teacher gets all the narrative which she writes about the children, and the holistic progress card. This is one of the unique things about the curriculum framework. It speaks about multi-dimensional report, all areas of it's not a math, language, EVS kind of a thing. It's cognitive, affective, psychomotor domain. So social, emotional development, cognitive development, everything. And assessment is not just done by the teacher. Parents also come in here. My big doubt is how parents will come and how are we going to do that? Though it's very, again, aspirational, but we'll have to work out how we can involve the parents in this. This is, I feel, a little difficult. And simple assessments, they say children themselves can make. It probably, if we do these kind of activities where they reflect and introspect, it will help them to, typically we like validation from others. We don't know how to gauge ourselves. We are so used to others telling, no, this is right, this is wrong, you're good, you're bad, you're very good in this. So we have always got validation from others. Somewhere we have to change that, where we learn to validate ourselves. Am I doing this properly? Am I teacher? Am I teaching correctly? Or I'm doing time pass today. Did I just spoke something and finished the class? Or did I teach this concept very well? So I think, they're talking about children. It will come to assessment of children also, and over a period of time. So when learning competencies leading to learning learning competencies achieves learning objectives, that happens, then all this will be in place. They've given well-defined rubrics, which I just showed you. So the assessment also is covered in the curriculum framework. This I just discussed with you, familiar language and all that. The problem is with today, the mother tongue teaching is I just discussed, but the present status is a lot of oral repetition of text. They just read, they don't even understand. That is why foundational literacy means reading with comprehension, speaking with comprehension, and writing with comprehension. We focus a lot on copywriting, handwriting, and there's no meaning oriented, right? So that's why we don't have good readers and writers. So we need to just a little bit about understanding of this. So how do we go about this is, there has to be a balance between lower order skills. Now, lower order skills are phonological awareness about the sounds, decoding the particular words, k, at, b, at, whatever, writing letters and words correctly. If you look at it, we focus a lot on this lower order skills, don't we? Whereas the higher order skills are oral language development, engaging with books, drawing, and original thinking, which is meaning focused. Sadly, we focus on the lower order skills more than the higher order skills. So it's important that we look, have a lot of conversations. That's why they're talking about conversations, guided conversation, structured conversation, free conversations. When we, then the children will start speaking words. Some of us don't know to write a particular language, but then you will speak very well. The more you speak, the more you are able to express yourself better, and richer also the language becomes. So the focus must shift to higher order. Now, they speak about also about emergent literacy. All we have to understand is before we actually learn to read and write, we do, there are things that children do before they actually read and write. Like, for example, they pretend as though they are reading. They look at things, they act. You give a book, they'll act as though they are reading. They give a picture, they will read. That's called logo. So all this is called emergent. Before they actually begin to read, they start reading. They look at an everyday advertisement, they will see one Bonvita, they'll know what Bonvita. They look at it and say Bonvita. Or they, so these are the things which are very important, emergent reading. Same way, if you can ask, do children draw and scribble to represent something? They do. They even invent their own spellings, like they write KAT, cat. Sometimes children write FONE, phone, and tell you why we have to write PHONE. English is an unphonetic language. So we, it's not wrong when the child asks you those questions. And so writing should be something that reflects their talk, their experiences, their reading and everything. So emergent writing. So give them exposure, recognize. Some pictures I have to show you in this. So, they can read storybooks, keep it print-rich environment. These are foreign pictures, but I'm sure our Indian classrooms also have all these things. I put certain things like, where, like this is a display board. It's very important to have a print-rich environment. Label everything in the class. Have big books, picture books, story posters, poems, children, and like this, what children have done, and put children's work as much as possible. Not only develops a self-concept, but they also read, sight reading. Put up all the classroom should be full of words, pictures. Of course, we may not be able to have some kind of a corner like this, but if you can, nothing like it. This is doable next to a smart board if there is a, put whatever that you want, keep reading cards here. These are, in government schools. I've taken these pictures from government schools. They've used a table, as you can see here. And, they put ropes and they've hung pictures here. So, teachers are very creative. So they get everything. But when you display books, display pictures, then only the children will learn to read. Otherwise, they're not going to be interested. This is a very ideal thing. I thought I'll show you some nice ones also. Comfortable and well-maintained area. Just like reading, a writing corner in the class where there are crayons, colors, pencils, where children can read and write. So we just saw this. So this can be like, oral language. How do you develop? Like, let them hear the sounds in the environment. Something like rhythmic clap, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, something like that. Sound tapes. Today we can record on the mobile phone and show them. They can listen to the story and have a rapid fire round. Make it like a Kaun Banega Crorepati types. Something. Spin a story. Games like making a soup, like you add tomato, carrot, beetroot. The fourth child says tomato, carrot, beetroot, onion, something like that. Have freeze dance, play music, and those kind of things. And understanding phonological awareness, what the sounds mean, what is a sound basically. Sounds are very important to decode, so that is important. So decoding is basically deciphering written words by sounding them out. Like that akshara we say, the sound and the individual letter, the letter combination, like b, at, some like cl, it's a blend, k and l together. We should know all these things. You can do it with a lot of activities. This is just an example. And then reading with comprehension. So understanding what you're reading is something that is important. So language comprehension and word reading. These two play a very important role. Understanding what you're reading and also trying to read whatever words that are there. Yeah? Then only reading happens. So some simple thing like Pat is a cat, Sam is a dog. Pat is a pal, Sam is a pal. Pat and Sam are pals. Pat naps, Sam naps. Pat and Sam nap. Pat and Sam are pals that nap. So what is it, who's Pat, who's Sam, and what do they do? Some simple comprehension passages like this with pictures, with some repetitive words will be interesting for children. And then will come the fluent reading, when they can look and read with fluency. Writing, as we know, is communicating your thoughts and ideas. So what is important is having a balanced literacy approach, which the curriculum framework speaks about. So instead of the lower order, focus on the higher order, sorry. So oral language development from preschool to grade 2, learning vocabulary, reading with comprehension. The reading with comprehension will probably happen from senior KG to grade 2. Original writing and comprehension, grade 1 and 2, lot of original writing. Now, the fact is children are ready to write physically when they are around 6 years old. Their finger dexterity develops, fine motor skills are developed. So we have to ready the children in the preschool so that when they come to class 1, it's very easy for them to take the pencil and write, rather than forcing them because their fine muscles are not developed in that particular stage. So this is the all what we discussed now. So when you look at numeracy, it's again understanding numbers, their values, shapes, measurement, data handling. All these things come under foundational numeracy, where basic to solve day-to-day problem, which is not happening. In the earlier slide, I showed you about the learning gap. I think the foundational numeracy focus is given. So children learn to use, when should I add? I went to the shop, I bought 2 apples. My mother gave me 2 more. So that more indicates addition. So, word problems and, all those things, foundational numeracy, when to use what, children don't know. Whether to use addition, subtract, because it's only that simple, no? Vertical addition, subtraction, horizontal. We focus on all that and not really, it should, we do word problems last. Instead, we should start with word problems, talk to children a lot in your circle time about word problems, and then come to these understanding of the method that you're going to follow. So this is just, again, how step by step we have to take it. So for numeracy, they talk about developing mathematical abstract ideas through concrete experiences. Show them. You're teaching tables. 2 taken once is 2. Ask them to take 2 stones, bring it once, count and see 2. Take 2 stones twice. So 2 and 2, then 4. So concrete experiences we should have. Today we have so many games we look at in the internet, Pinterest, and so many games are available. We should use all of that. Use the ELPS approach, they say. Experience, spoken language, pictures, and written symbols. Connect to the real world. And, a lot of us are scared of math. That's because it's been taught including me, so not taught well. So it's important that we engage children in such a nice manner that they enjoy what they are. It's a problem solving tool and they enjoy what they are doing also, basically. So here they're saying take it into 4 blocks. First is an oral math talk. So I have a lot of talk, poems, oral calculation. I told, word problem, have that first year. Let the teacher discuss all these things. Then block 2 can be skill teaching. Teach them how to do that particular operation. Addition or subtraction or counting or missing number, whatever that is. Then practice. After you've taught, let them practice. Give them procedural, conceptual, problem solving, reasoning. Give them activities for them to practice. And then the 4th block, they are saying, have a math game. So whatever that you've learned, play the game so they understand, they know when to use what, how to problem solve, and whatever they've learned to reinforce that particular learning. So these are the 4 blocks that is given in the policy, in the curriculum framework, which will be a very good thing for teachers to adopt. So these are the activities which you can do. So basically it says, have a warm-up and then, open-ended large discussion, sing songs. Then you teach them, conduct activities, and the timing also is given. Then you ask them to do a workbook. Block 3 and 4 will be, they do workbook and worksheet. Then they play a math game. So structured learning for math is through this 4-block approach. Again, when you have a print-rich environment, when you give opportunities for children, they will blossom and understand a lot of things. So all we have to do is to make learning enjoyable, make learning fun, and make learning meaningful. This is what the curriculum framework talks about. Is nothing very, very different. It's many things that we follow, many things we've missed out, many things we are not giving attention to. But when we make it more fun and enjoyable for children, I am sure we can achieve what the government thinks. We can achieve what the experts have come together to bring this national curriculum framework to us. So it is very activity based oriented, and so you must be in a position to, what are the chief takeaways from today's session? You will have to decide who's your target group, how will you implement your learning, and where are you going to implement the learning, when are you going to do it, and how are you going to do it? So these are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. So it's not just attending a session, but it is, how am I going to incorporate, even if one thing you're going to incorporate in your classroom teaching. I think what CRDE is wanting to achieve, and what I've been speaking for this, I know it has been a long session, but that's at the end of the day, that is the whole objective behind this. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. I know it was a long session, and it's a very beautiful policy that's come up. And I think as teachers, we should see to it that we can kind of do whatever that we can, so that the whole, we have to bring in that renaissance in education has to come in. And they say, the NEP, the starting of pages of NEP says that, India is a country. We had Takshashila. We had the glorious education systems, the universities, Nalanda, everything. Where did they all go? They say that we have to get back that Nalanda and Takshashila, and I'm sure we can do it. When educational systems are in place, everything will happen. And together we can do it. And that's the whole thing. Thank you, Uma ma'am, for inviting me and for giving me an opportunity. This is very dear. I know it's very difficult, but something that I really like to talk about, and at least this knowledge about this to the others, so we all understand. Great work done by experts in the field of education. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vidya ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We
In fact,
thank you. On behalf of CRDE, it's a great, I would say, so much of information and so much of data, and in detail you have explained. It's just foundational years. Previously it used to be just, oh, they go to nursery, junior, senior, but it is not so. That foundational years require a lot and lot for them to grow. That is what you have made it very clear to all of us and all the educators, I'm sure. Ambuja ma'am, would you like to say something?
Yeah, it was a
Yes,
fantastic
yes.
session, a very enlightening
yes, please.
session. I think it was very comprehensive, very well detailed, and the explanation was so clear. But I just had, one question in my mind.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
question was, what is the status of RTE in this scenario? The Right to Education Act for the preschools. Till now it was denied. It was a little slippery. But has it been concretized now, or is it going to be there or not?
It will be there, because there is a lot of in the curriculum framework. There's a lot about inclusive practices. There is a lot about inclusion, not only of children with special needs, but also all kinds of children in the society. So I think it will still be there, though it has not yet come out that has to come from the government. But I'm sure they will bring that in also. It's there in the curriculum framework that you need to include all children.
Let me congratulate you. Your session was really wonderful.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Sir?
Ma'am, Vidya ma'am, it's fantastic. In fact, you had asked in the beginning that what are your expectations, but I think we have got more than what we have expected.
Yes.
Thank you,
It was very nice session, particularly as you said that whatever changes have to be done, the changes have to be done in the lower stages.
Yes.
And then only it will then cater to the higher and higher end stages. Otherwise, if anything, if you do it in the end stage, it will not give any result at all.
And the problem is because we look at it in the end and not.
Correct. That's the wrong way of doing it. And nowadays we are practicing that one. But anyway, this NEP 2020 will, if it is implemented in principle properly. But see, question is not just implementation. The government can give NEP 2020 everything in paper, but ultimately it is in the hands of the teacher
Yes.
and the school how to implement it.
Correct.
Just namesake, if you implement it, it will give the namesake result only.
Results only.
So everything
there is
depends
this
upon the
mind-
teachers.
There's
Correct.
a mind block, you know.
Correct. Yes.
So
Anyway, thank you very much on behalf of CRD. Of course, Mama will officially thank you, but on behalf of CRD, on my personal behalf, I thank you very much for having this session, ma'am.
Thank you.
Though
sir.
it was delayed due to whatever may be the reason, but everything has been covered now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
we expect, further more sessions later.
yes,
Sure.
yes. Okay.
Ma'am, you can, since it is a little late, you can conclude. If anybody has got any questions to be asked, can be. Otherwise, we can conclude.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So let me officially, on behalf of CRD, let me sincerely thank Dr. Vidya Satish for giving such a wonderful insight into the foundational years, our national curriculum framework in detail. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you, ma'am.
sincerely thank Ambujam ma'am
Thank you.
for always, being a very active participant, and she always puts more insight also to all of us. We see, this is like share and care, it is always with us, right? And learning in collaboration always. And I sincerely thank all the educators who are present here. I'm sure there are a lot of takeaways for all of us. Thank you so much. And let me sincerely thank Dr. Suresh Nair and Mrs. Deepa Desai ma'am for giving me an opportunity to host this webinar. Thank you so much. Last but not the least, let me announce the next webinar. On 6th February, we'll be having Chandrakala Mishra. So I would like Vidya Satish ma'am also to be a part of it. I'll be definitely sending you an invite. Thank you so much. Last but not the least, I sincerely thank the technical support for all their support throughout. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for the opportunity.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
thanks to
Thank
my
you.
students who attended too. Thank you, girls.
Thank
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you.